you have AI that's now good enough that somebody who has 30 years of experience in cybersecurity is finding things in the past week, more bugs or more vulnerabilities that he hasn't found his entire career. We're seeing the scale and potential damage happen very quickly because we have an entire tech stack that wasn't ready for AI.
The threat has never been more real. You should have to assume that you're vulnerable by default. And so to circumvent that risk, why not build on a truly tamper-proof protocol like the Internet Computer?
What you're seeing on the screen is built and deployed on the Internet Computer Protocol. So this doesn't touch AWS, this doesn't touch GCP, doesn't touch anything. One prompt, an app kicks off a team of agents to work on your app.
Skills are baked in by default.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Chris Yost here. Welcome to CloudCast episode 10 featuring Swissy. Swissy is extremely well versed in vibe coding, cryptography, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and beyond, and currently is working for DFINITY on the Caffeine team. In this episode, Swissy and I discuss how Caffeine just upgraded from V2 to V3. We also discuss the ICP security thesis, why the internet you use today was not built to survive autonomous AI, Claude Mythos, and the ever-expanding threats of AI on the existing Web 2 infrastructure, and how ICP serves as a solution for this. Swissy takes us through a live Caffeine demo. We explore the oncoming cloud engines and the value proposition of sovereign cloud infrastructure. And we dig into the bigger picture, why countries, hospitals, and entire industries are starting to ask questions about who controls their infrastructure. I've got chapters in the timeline below if you want to skip around based on topic. And with all that said, let's go to Swissy.
Here to chat some Caffeine V3 and ICP.
Yeah. Covering V2 to V3, big updates, ICP in general, which we got Chris and Swissy in the flesh. So finally.
Very excited to be here.
Chris, you've been building things with Caffeine before, like V1 early days, and then now you've kind of transitioned into Claude. We'll cover some of that and then go through a live build, some tweets that we can go through. There's so much going on, right? We have the skills from ICP, and then that ties into Claude, and then you have that agentic building, and then you have Caffeine, and then also tying into things of getting on-chain LLMs, the tease of the 120 billion parameters, which would be incredible. But a lot of different avenues, a lot of different things moving very quickly for the ICP 2.0. And it's, kind of using this space to like sit back a little bit, understand where we're going and bounce off of each other. Because, you've been in the space for a long time.
Sir.
I've been in the space, but I guess behind the scenes. And then now with Caffeine. So hopefully can shine a bit of light.
Yeah, man. Tell me about V3.
Yeah. So the big shift with V3 is the agent team. With V2 to V3 that we were seeing is a lot of people the two main issues were the latency. So, you have a prompt and then you wait for a long time and then it breaks. And then you have the prompts that don't follow what the user is asking. So you prompt it and you say, hey, I want to put this over here, or, oh, I want to include this page on my website, and it would not do so. So then there's two big things to fix, which is, making something faster, but also making it better and able to follow what the user is saying. And fixing one of them has to come first. Like you can't fix something that isn't following the user's directions and make it really fast. You could do that, and
That's
you
right.
You can always improve on latency, but running fast into a wall doesn't really help, right? You need to move around it. So that's where the agent team comes in, and that's where the different waves come in. Yeah. So the big thing with V3 was solving the agent being able to understand the user and also help the user get out if the build is stuck or if the build kind of runs into these issues. So looking a little bit into if we have the flow of the linear pipeline, we have single agent that goes through, and you have the plan, you have the build the back end, you have the build the front end, and then a quality check. You have one agent that has to do every single step. And one thing about agents is context is king. So what is context? It's like the code of your project, the prompt that you're doing, images that you put, you're kind of, all of that is context that you're feeding into the agent, and that goes through this whole pipeline. So then with the pipeline approach, if something happens where there's a mistake, so let's say it's on the back end, let's see if I can point to it. So building backend, let's say you got your application and you're really happy with it, and then you do an update and you say, hey, I want to add this to my application, and it goes through the pipeline again, and the backend isn't able to produce it. Let's say it was a bit more complex, or something happened in that build process, the entire project would fail in V2. So, and it would be very hard to get them unstuck. I think a lot of users were,
brick walls.
Yeah, exactly. And bringing it up, and it was one of the major complaints was, I've put in so much time and effort, right? We have people that are, each deploy that you have is a version, and you can go back to it, you can go to the next one. And people, we're on version 400, incredibly complex apps that they're building with Caffeine. But again, in pipeline, you have A to B, one shot through. If anything happens inside that process, you have to go through again and loop back and try. Like, you can't stop here in the back end and say, oh, let me just work on front end. And then you would have V2 that says, hey, it's done. Here you go, which isn't ideal. And when you have the pipeline approach, it's less of an agentic one, and it's more of a, let's go through A, then B, then C, then D. And if something breaks, we have to go through A, B, C, D, and E all over again. So V3 kind of opens that up to an agent team, which in terms of, and again, the Kepler live stream was really good of breaking through exactly, what does the composer do? What does the PM, the discovery agents, the design, backend, front end, QA review, and QA visual? So all of these, and it's more of a, at this point in time that the user is building this project, what do we need to do? Which was a question that isn't possible on the pipeline aspect of, like, I guess, agentic building. But here we can go through one agent that then talks to another one, and then talks to another one, talks to another one. And you can, loop through those. You can have a pipeline approach within the multi-agent. You don't want your front end to start by uploading things before it's actually done the skeleton of the project. You still do want pipelines but at the right points.
So it's a bit more modular in its approach.
Yeah, a bit more modular and working well in terms of what people have been able to build. A lot of people are saying they can build more complex applications. A lot of people who were stuck on V2 have gone back and go through. And there's still some, pain points and scaling. I mean, we launched and then a lot of people kind of flooded through and had to do some nice load balancing on there. But
we're eager.
Yeah.
Eager to build.
But it's
just really quick, Swissy. One point that comes to mind for me is so many of these people who did get brick walled building very complex applications. So now they're able to revisit those apps with V3 and ideally revive them.
Yeah, I think there's some that are like, if they were day one or very, very, old projects, might have a bit more issues going in. Okay. But there is a path that came with this update that other users, they shouldn't have any of those issues. Yeah. And then you can go through and kind of prompt and push its limits. But again, now you have in that one prompt the entire agent team. So if we look back here, one prompt now kicks off a team of agents to work on your app. And I guess we could talk a little bit about, Claude Code, Lovable, Caffeine. Where does Caffeine kind of sit with all of that? But again, I want to step back and answer if you have more questions in Caffeine in general, like a little bit behind the scenes, or anything you want me to dive maybe more into.
I'd love to hear a bit more about this multi-agent flow.
Okay.
And maybe you can define for the audience what exactly that looks like. Is there a set team of agents that works on every single app that's prompted in Caffeine, or are certain agents called upon based on the specific requirements of a particular app the user's trying to build?
Yeah. So I think a normal like workflow, let's say if it's V2, normal workflow.
It's Blackboard time.
Yeah.
Blackboard time
Would
baby.
be you have your prompt and then you have your output that you're hoping for. And then your workflow is straight through. If something bad happens in here, you're screwed. You have to start again, go through and output like that. And maybe you got it right on the second try and you're happy. But then V3 brings this approach of you have your prompt and you have your output. So that doesn't change, right? Like you still, when you're app building or you're prompting and all these things, the big difference between like Claude Code or more of this agentic engineering is more step-by-step building. So you might say, hey, build me a web app. And then it builds, let's say it goes on Vercel and it goes on whatever is maybe trending or in its like pre-trained data that it's popular, right? It goes through, it'll probably do Next.js frameworks and all these things, and trying to stay a bit high level here. But you would have to then, build that up. And you might get something that's just local. You might get something that doesn't even work. You have to iterate through. And you can iterate quickly, but you still have to go step by step. Whereas on Caffeine, you have more of this app builder approach where you can prompt and then you walk away and that thing that you've been working on is built. So in V3, what we have is these multi-agents that are able to talk to each other, communicate, and also interact and break certain things down. So, let's say this one is the back-end agent, and then front-end agent. And this opens the door to a parallelized approach. So when you have, let's say, an agent that's working on back-end, you can work on some things on the front end. V2 had it where it was only one after the other. So sometimes people would add something on the front end, what your site looks like, and then all of a sudden it would break because you added you tried to add an admin panel, right? And you wanted that visual, but it actually touched the back end, and then it would break and you wouldn't be able to get out of it. So let's say it goes through and then it can talk to the design one, and then it can talk back to, an orchestrator, and then you get your output. What you save is the context that we started with, which is, you have to keep in mind all of these things that the app is doing. So how do you know what the design looks like? How do you know when it's done? How do you know when all these things happen? Is you have to take that multi-agent approach, because then you can have the context managed a lot better. The other advantage that you get, I guess, is different models, different things that people produce. Let's say if like Gemini or whatever is doing good on UI stuff, then we can get that in there. If we want certain skills at certain points, we can have agents that have those certain skills. So you can have like your experts that have different things, and they all come together and give you your like nice looking UI.
So if you wanted to port in some UI design expertise from Gemini, you said that's possible?
It's possible in terms of the Caffeine kind of builder process, but I think skills that other people have done, I think we'll look to add that in. The next big thing is going from V2 to V3 was skills in general. Before, it wasn't even possible to have skills. So the shift is definitely monumental in that sense, but you have V3 skills that we've added, and now, it's kind of curated through Caffeine. So we did kind of the work of seeing what are the best skills out there, what are their outputs, how does that relate to ICP, and how can we curate the best of them for people to just come into Caffeine, right? Like if you have a side-by-side and you have Claude Code and you have Caffeine, let's say V3, here you have to have the user that goes in and finds the skills, and then finds the different resources.
Or prompt Claude Code to find the optimal relevant skills.
Yes,
it takes that manual.
Exactly. And then like a big one is like ICP, we'll say cycle management.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've never interacted with this part, it's kind of where things start to break down a little bit. And then V3 is the user comes in, and then prompts.
Skills are baked in by default.
Yeah.
Massive.
Which is huge as well. I think the thing that's also important to remember is that whichever side you're on that kind of removed everything, but we'll do Claude Code or Caffeine V3, whichever side you're on a little bit, all of it goes back to ICP.
That's right.
Because that's where things are actually being hosted. That's where cycles are actually being burned. So the two work together.
So there's a whole spectrum available for various experience levels.
Yeah.
So you can be a total noob to vibe coding and run Caffeine and not have to even know what skills are.
Exactly.
And have that abstracted for you. And that's beautiful. Or if you want to be a little more hands-on and in the weeds, then you can use Claude Code and deploy on-chain to ICP. So yes, full spectrum of approaches for vibe coding.
Yeah, and you can speak on that as well because you've done it. You've gone through the skills.
Been getting my hands dirty.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I see.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Been learning through a fire hose.
Nice. But yeah, so here's just highlighting the skills. So skills.internetcomputer.org is also something that kind of is expanding from this AI initiative, but also just productization in general. Is there will be Caffeine users, but there's also people that like Claude Code. There's people that like Cursor, that their own environments, and it's how can we get them to easily get onto ICP and making that easier and easier and easier for humans, but then also agents. Again, you have the expertise of DFINITY, the people that have built canister security, have built all these things of the like CKBTC integrations, the cycle management, HTTPS outcalls, Motoko in general, internet identity, vet keys. All of these are curated from DFINITY. So you have the experts curating skills for every user. It's just incredible. And I think more and more people, and the people that have tried it have enjoyed it. But the old path was, and I had actually built an MCP for this early on, I think when Cursor had some things, but you could scrape the dashboard, you could scrape the docs, because ICP had some really good docs, which is now translating to skills, which is nice, but you had to maintain that yourself or go through and update it, or you'd still run into mistakes, right? Because your models don't innately know ICP. I think they'll know more and more through different usage and people, deploying and getting more applications that are with Motoko and deployed on ICP. But again, a tremendous resource for anybody who's building, who wants to go into ICP and might not know about it. They can also go get the skills, ask Claude Code to get the skills and just talk about it. Ask Claude and just talk about it and understand what you want to build. But yeah, it's incredible to have the leading experts at something also build the skills, and huge to take advantage of it. Like vet keys, everything. Like the path to get something that's robust and functioning is much smaller than it used to be. You used to, try and build, and you were on the cutting edge of Motoko, and your AI wouldn't be as good. Yeah.
So much less friction. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. V3 as well. I wonder if what we can do is pull up, the waves we kind of talked about, status bar. Yeah, there's so many. I think Christopher had posted where it was, here's what's new with V3, and it's it's an entire
ran out of room, ran out of ink.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is true. Like almost everything. If you go, I guess we can just, better thing to do would just be to pull up V3.
Yes, and just what highlights out of those upgrades and new releases come to mind for you as being most impactful?
Yeah, I think, getting unstuck is huge. Having an agentic system that is able to follow what the user asks, I think is if you don't get that right, then we can't.
Crucial.
Yeah, we can't upgrade, we can't move quicker. There's no point in speeding things up if what we build isn't good. And then skills is also huge because we can curate the industry leading design sense into somebody who's never done design, never done front end, and be able to have that kind of curated knowledge into their application building. So skills is big, getting unstuck, having the agents is big. Agentic versus pipeline. So again, we kind of went over pretty quickly, which was the pipeline where you go from A, B, C, D. And if something happens, you have to go all the way through A, B, C, D, and E again.
Yes.
But agentic is kind of like A to then where should we go next? And then, okay, we did this, but now we should probably change the back end again. Or, oh, we changed that. Now we should change the front end again. And then, okay, now let's check all of what we've done. And then we'll say we're done. So you can bounce around that a little bit. And
so the order of operations is adaptive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Based on the need.
Yeah, I'll kind of do a little whiteboard as well of just agents in general. So you have agents, multi-agents, what is happening, what is all these things. So you have your LLM, which is your AI, and a lot of people kind of play around with definitions of what is an LLM, what is AI. And then you might ask it something of saying, hey, deploy on ICP. And if it doesn't have that in kind of its pre-trained information, that won't happen at all. So you have an LLM and then you want it to build on ICP. So what can you do? You can add tools to it. So here we have tools. So now it's like, web search, you can have deploying on ICP if you want to create that as a tool. You can start to have kind of we'll call them like the arms and legs of an LLM.
Yes, and it's safe to use the brain analogy for the LLM.
Yeah, exactly.
For people who are entirely new to this.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think Andre Karpathy has had that analogy. It was like the original LLM brain that then had the CTO and other aspects on it. But yeah, the LLM is the brain that when you ask it to do something, it doesn't really know what to do. So now we have an LLM with tools.
Body parts.
Yeah.
So
LLM that has access to tools. Let's see here. Tools. And this is decent. This works pretty well. But again, the way that people innovate and go through things quickly is absolutely incredible. But what you can have is potentially like an eye where with the tools or with the LLM itself, you can observe its own actions. And this thing, that like small shift is what you have for people that have followed OpenClaw or Hermes or whatever agents they're using, is that next improvement of, okay, I tried to deploy on ICP 10 times, maybe I should change something. If you don't have that ability to see that you're failing, then you just keep failing into an abyss.
Self-awareness, essentially.
Yeah. So now this is, we'll call it like that would be maybe one agent, and a team of agents is basically the LLM that has the tools. And then you can have a different LLM that has different tools. So you can have, let's say this one has web search, and then this one has no tools, so it can just code well, but it has skills. So this one has web design. And then now you can have together, these two are like an agentic multi-agent system that is able to do a web search and then also have web design. But again, of trying to say or see why and how these agents are, like the benefit that you get is you have, let's say this is your, I guess, brain, or this is your context. And this starts to fill up as you're building your application. Your application gets more complex and things. That's why you have in Cloud Code, you'll have like compact or something. And you go through here. And then if you have a single agent, all of that in your agent, all of that gets crammed in to that single agent. And then you can go through and you can process it and you can flush it. You can say, hey, I don't want to worry about this. But a better way to do it is in a multi-agent system, you have the same one that then goes to an agent that has its own context window. And this one, if it's only focused on web design, it's going to be really good at doing that web design versus if it has to have your entire application and
Full stack.
yeah, your entire stack that you're doing with Motoko and React, and you're going through these things, you don't have to worry about this. It won't improve significantly. The thing that might be good though is context being able to go through, which is, hey, like what if I'm building for, I don't know, we'll say soccer. Let's say I'm building for a soccer team. And then you build the application, you have to worry about front end, all the coding, you have to go through all of that and scaffold it. But your infrastructure and different things that you're building don't really need to know at all times that it's for a soccer team. But maybe you want to build something that has an image, or you want to have something that relates to it. Well, if you don't give it the context of the soccer team, your web design might build something completely different. This is a bit kind of abstract as an example, but you have the composer for us, or Discover, or the PM for Caffeine V3 is able to play kind of this orchestrator aspect, right? You have composer, think of it like orchestra, right? Mm-hmm. And you have, it's able to relate and say, okay, I need this context from this agent, I need this one from this other agent, and I need all of these things to come together. Just tell me what you've done. And the reason why that works really well is because you can limit that context to your agent. So let's say the web design is over here doing front end, and they're churning code. Like they're going through a bunch of work, going through the code. And then you have the composer that's watching. Is you don't necessarily want the composer to see all the code, because now you've seen all the code and your context window is bloated. And then you might have the context where you mess things up and you can't remember.
Convoluted.
Yeah, what people have done, which again is not good. So that the context window right here is currently king. There's models that have 1 million tokens. That's when people say, like this model has, the context length is increasing, which is very good. And all of that is excellent. But even then, if you have 1 million tokens, you still want to be in there's some people, I think Dex forgot the company, but talk about the dumb zone, which is a great concept of having AI that suddenly can't perform as well, as you want to keep that managed. So Caffeine, all of this work, right? The front end design agent, the composer that keeps track of your entire application, the context window management. I think we talked about it as context as RAM in one of the posts, but all of that is abstracted from the user. So the user doesn't have to do any part of that. They don't have to worry about what's getting lost, what's getting used.
Limits.
They get the multi-agent system out of the box. The advantage as well is you can have the different models, you can have the different agents. Let's say one is really good at design, another one is really good at error correction.
Back end.
Yeah. Yep. But
I didn't mean to cut you off. Maybe it's good to go through all the types of agents within Caffeine.
The blog is a really nice source for anybody who's looking for more information. But here we have we have Caffeine, we have Composer, which is kind of the orchestrator. We have Wave 1, which goes through discovery, PM, and gives contracts and learnings, right? So that's the contracts and learnings aspect is the one where we had the web design one that was going back to the composer. That handoff here is where you're not sending the full code. You're sending just what you need to get from wave 1 to wave 2. And you're saying, hey, did you do your work? Tell me about it. Are you good to go to the next step? Yeah, I'm great. Or, hey, did you do your work? And it's like, hey, I'm the front end agent. I did this work, but the back end agent might not know what they're supposed to be doing. And that's where you have, the typical, I guess, PM that comes into the fold as well, where you can have your PM that goes in between them and is able to see and is like, alert, we're missing this back end aspect. And before in the pipeline, you didn't have this at all. You didn't have that kind of
context manager.
Yeah.
Essentially, right?
Exactly. And then there's some nice things as well. like quality review, these things down here. Let's see. Yeah. The might be a bit small, but review and visual is where you have another check before something gets output. I think there were a lot of times in V2 where we would have the generation happen and it would say, hey, I'm all done, good to go. But now we have a check that goes through and sees, okay, did this actually happen? Did the user's prompt get implemented properly? But that's for V3, the big thing is just this foundation of multi-agents, being able to add skills to them and being able to improve them versus more of a hard-coded pipeline workflow approach, which you can perfect, right? If we go through the trajectory of where V2 would bring us, end-to-end builds that are very, very, scoped, and maybe we nail those perfectly. But as soon as people add complexity, we wouldn't be able to support that. So the journey from V2 to V3 was completely taking this foundation with what we've learned and all the interaction and feedback that we've gotten from people, is substituting that in for something that can now scale and be this bedrock for agentic foundation of, do we want a marketing agent for caffeine users? Do we want an email agent? All these different things that we can now unlock because of that foundation being made, changing models with different updates, but also making things quicker. I think a lot of people might realize, hey, I'm very happy with what I can do with V3. I can make the most complex application that I've dreamed of, but I want it to be faster. Like it's not fast enough. I prompt and then I'm waiting, which is true. I think trying to solve all of those as we've done might have been a bit too much of that hurdle. But again, the pace at which caffeine is developing is slowly getting to that flywheel point. With V3, we're able to now go through and say, okay, where can we speed up the PM that talks to the design agent? Can we spawn, right, the multitude or whatever of design agents that are able to each take one thing else, or front end agents that are able to do things in parallel? Can we also take the context that we have, and rather than giving the whole code base, which we still have to make sure that there isn't those issues that are happening, can we go into here and say, hey, all I need is this chunk, and then give that to the agents, and then they're able to continue producing good outputs? Essentially, we now have the opportunity to go through and chip away at that latency, chip away at the things that we can go into speculative decoding and a bunch of different abilities. You can also improve skills. You can see how people are using things and say, okay, this skill needs to be improved, or, oh, we're losing a lot of time when this model is doing generations. So is a different model better? Is there context that we can drop? Kind of goes through all these things. But the flywheel aspect that I want to explain a little bit is, we go back to that LLM that has tools, and then the eye that's able to see how it's using those tools. Now, like, okay, let's say this is version 1, and then you have version 2 has gone through the loop. The LLM is now able to use, let's say, all those tools just much better. And this goes on and on and on. And then you get better and better at using those tools. So let's say this is level 1. You have, let's say, this is agent. This is all flywheels. So we have agents, and this is that LLM with the tools that's able to see what it's doing. And then we have product. So this is like Claude Code is an interesting one, where you have your product is able to see itself and improve. And by see itself, you see user interactions, you have analytics, and all of that goes through and loops back. And
recursively.
Yeah, exactly. And is able to improve. And if you can reach the flywheel pace, it's essentially the goal of what a lot of these AI products, projects are going for, because then you can accelerate at the pace of AI, right? Which is not this linear curve. Like if you see the, I guess, normal product path was, I have V1, and then I want to go to V2, and then I want to go to V3, right? And you follow this linear trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of it is it kind of looks a bit more like this. V1, V2 was a bit linear, and then now we're almost straight up V3. And this is the exponential growth and capabilities, but which is all fun and games. But the part that really stands out, kind of the elephant in the room that we can talk about all of this, and because it's so abstracted, a lot of the times it gets kind of put under the rug. But the third layer is the protocol. And this one is where the protocol itself that is hosting the product improves. And this is, I don't know if there's a good kind of design, but maybe we put like little nodes around the world. But this is ICP. But here we have, right, agents that are improving. They're getting better at making skills. We have product. Caffeine as a product with multiple agents is getting better at delivering what users are hoping for. And then hosting those products on ICP. So hosting these things on internet computer. But then the interesting thing that ICP has a capability of is getting into that flywheel as well, because of the way that you don't have to depend on a certain team to do updates, right? You go through the network nervous system. That is code. And once the vote comes in, you have the code and then it's delivered. You don't vote on something and then hope a team that's part of some foundation actually builds what they said they were going to, but then might not, or they might change it. Building on top of the protocol then has agents that are able to improve. So that's where I think Dom was saying it about having agents that are doing proposals. So again, you can have an agent that goes through all of ICP and says, here's where we can maybe get things to speed up. Here's how we can scale a bit better. Here's how we can do different things. And then the agents propose, and then agents kind of collaborate and have the protocol without necessarily human in the loop, unless they're voting.
So truly decentralized execution, programmatic execution.
Yep.
That's not possible on a traditional centralized network.
Yeah.
Right. So it's big to elaborate on.
But these kind of, again, the flywheel aspect of, you're building something, you figure out what you can improve, you improve it, you build it, and now you're building something again. You go through all over. And the scale and improvement that this can do is ridiculous. So the goal for, I guess, many products today is, how can we achieve this, right? How can we get through an improvement in a product at the pace of AI, right? Because before it was, okay, we're trying these features and we want to see if people use them. And, we launch and then we wait. And now it's very shortly going to become in real time. So it's like right now, I'd say caffeine, maybe on a weekly basis, improves, which is, again, for the pace of it is pretty quick. And then we'll go to days and we'll go to minutes and seconds. Once you get to the agentic scale of things, it goes very quickly, because you have the data that's there and you can improve the product. But the exciting thing is that you can improve the protocol, because again, all these things caffeine touches. So you have caffeine experimenting with agents. It is a product, and then it's deploying on ICP. So then if ICP is getting better, caffeine gets better, and it kind of touches the full stack of this agentic direction. And then, so what does that look like in terms of what we have? Is we have back to the Claude code, caffeine, and then we'll say like on-chain ICP. We could say Kinnick. We could say Panda for IC Panda DAO. And there's probably a bunch that I'm missing, but you're going through Claude Code, you pull in the skills from DFINITY skills, right, that we showed earlier. You go to Caffeine, you prompt on-chain ICP, you're actually on-chain. So that's the LLM that's fully hosted within the canister. Again, this could be a whole talk on just that, because that is the benefits that you get, right? We see the whole Mythos from Anthropic that's coming out, but it's so good that they're not publicly releasing it. We have the whole like AWS or Cloudflare downtime.
Yep.
And all of these
attacks on data centers.
Yep. And all these things, we're seeing the scale and potential damage happen very quickly because we have an entire tech stack that wasn't ready for AI. So you can't build, I guess, in retrospect. Like you can't, this loop that we usually have, which is the, attackers and defenders, and you have attackers that are finding out new ways to attack like different firewalls or different things. And you have defenders that are creating new ones and trying to stop exploits. And ideally you have this mismatch. You have the defenders that win off, but now we have AI that can maybe search all of the open source software in general. And just autonomously send out their whole multi-agent teams just to attack it and try to extract things, which is already happening. It's already happening, and the new model is even better at it and all of that. So what do you do if all of this is hosted on these kind of legacy software? You have different and these guys are hacking, right? This is a very, very high level. We'll just stay high level with
we're tracking
designs. But so again, this is, I guess, software, which is vulnerable. And then you have, this is, we'll say, Mythos, because they had their whole talk that they were able to find these exploits. Let me move that here. Right. Or just AI in general. And then this is maybe AWS, GCP, head snare, and then other ones. But you have different options of going here. You create kind of this protective layer by using the AI itself to then go in and create that layer. And then you're protected on some vulnerabilities. You can create things in certain languages. Maybe you have things that are in Rust or are more kind of impermeable, I think is probably a good word. But you try to do that. That's your attempt, is going through and making things as secure as possible. And for the most part, that's all we have at our disposal. Like if we're going on a pure Web 2 sense, this is if ICP didn't exist. And here we have, the software that goes in, and here you have like your operating system that has like kernel, and we'll say, if you get in here, it's very bad. So again, agents are able to access the software, usually, you could have things that are very bad in here and you don't even have to do this hop, but usually your goal is to extract things that usually you have firewalls in place so that you can't actually do this. And again, this is very high level, but essentially this hop is what you're protecting against. So in a new paradigm, or how this would work on ICP, is the software itself is here. So when it hits this, and let's say this is ICP, there is no OS kernel. So what they can have, they can't access it. This hop goes nowhere. The second hop, which is, that itself is something that a lot of people, I guess, might not know. But here you have that it's directly, this is software, but this is WASM, VM, canister. And that's where your software actually lives, is on the canister, and all the benefits that you get from that. But let me show another example is AWS. let's say they do solve everything and it's the happy case. And then here's ICP that again would benefit from certain things. But here, let's say that you have something that's geopolitical. So you have the US is maybe not being nice with other people or vice versa. And then let's say this one is Switzerland here. So we have US like that. And then you have, let's do Switzerland. And so I guess here you would have US East 1. And then Switzerland has different things. But again, the US is saying about something, and you have maybe Microsoft Teams. So maybe we just make this Microsoft for now, which is a centralized company, and you're hosting stuff on Azure. And I switched the example because this is a real life example, and it happened somewhat recently. It happened within the year, I believe, or shortly before, like end of 2025.
That's right.
Where the US goes in and says, hey, we don't like what somebody else is doing, cut them out of their accounts. And so what they actually got out of is Teams. And they removed Teams from that user who was, I believe, part of the UN or something, because Microsoft and Azure is a centralized company that's in the US, which is great when everything is all right. But as we're seeing, when things kind of change or things get, you don't know how things are going, which a lot of people use Teams to be secure. But to see that is something that can also be revoked also raises some alarms. So what are some things that maybe Switzerland can do is you can have, rather than going on the Microsoft route, so you go on the ICP route.
Sovereign cloud.
Where like US or other people, they can't go through, and you have your own kind of node structure that is able to communicate with each other, and you don't have to worry about any sovereign nation or certain things. I know I think Pakistan and Switzerland, and I'm sure more will come as well on ICP, right? The open kind of sovereign cloud, where you gain the benefits of security, you gain the benefits of like the things that are tamper proof. We saw it with the last example of the code that lives on this kind of tamper proof environment, which attackers can't get in from the start, versus our kind of firewall approach. Like this is the difference between protocol protection and then I guess firewall protection. So if we divvy this up, and this is firewall.
Which for the firewall defense, it's essentially patchwork defense, right? You're just continuously layering and layering on more complex defense systems, but you're never guaranteed true immunity from the threat.
Yep, exactly.
So it's a total paradigm shift. Yep.
Yeah, and this kind of is like a constant back and forth. And a lot of this is on hope, pretty much. Like
right.
you don't know there's an exploit until an exploit has happened. And what they're finding, like if I go, let's see, and pull this up here just a little bit. This might blast a lot of people with white screen, fair warning. But here we have, let's do this one. What I was going to do is highlight the state of AI where we're at in terms of capabilities, where you have highlighting here. If you wanted to know anybody's information in terms of the need for cybersecurity improvements, where the current state is at, the kind of this, I guess, red team Anthropic is the go-to in terms of like world's smartest models. What are their capabilities? What can they do? And the most recent one that they did is so good that they didn't release it to the public. I don't know. There's, I think Theo has a good on Twitter and YouTube and stuff, has a good breakdown of sounding the alarm in a sense, that you have AI that's now good enough that somebody who has 30 years of experience in cybersecurity is finding things in the past week or past few days that he hasn't found, or more bugs or more vulnerabilities than in his entire career.
Insane.
Yeah. So there's two takeaways from that. It's one is what do we do? And this is terrifying. The other one is, wow, what are things that maybe I don't know? Like I haven't spent 30 years learning. What are things that I want to try out? You have kind of like the nicer aspect where you can just play around with different things of science and quantum stuff. But you have these two paths of sounding off the alarm, right? This Project Glasswing, which again, I think in terms of how they handled it was excellent. If you have something that's able to do all of this and you just had it in the hands of the world, we would be seeing a lot worse hacks rather than them going through and patching it, which is good. But again, just to say, like, look, this is the leaders in authority on this subject matter, also the ones who built it. So maybe there's some things that they're stretching. But again, if they're stretching it now or they're stretching it in 6 months, I don't think it really makes a difference. I think the tech stack that we have in terms of here, right, practices, prepare the industry for the practices we will need to adopt to keep ahead of cyber attackers. A quick thing there would probably be adopting ICP as, I guess, a shameless like plug. But
Bingo.
again, just in terms of what models are capable of doing, where you would have previous flow of security was through not negligence, but hey, are things probably safe? And, we get hacked maybe once a week or once, a year, if that, or hey, our stuff is like on a normal tech stack. So maybe people won't attack us. And the thing that's scary is that it doesn't matter who you are. Like if you have maybe a public facing endpoint that somebody can tap into, is you'll have this entire fleet of AI agents that are running from somewhere, maybe countries or whatever, that are constantly attacking and searching for these vulnerabilities. So that's where the caffeine stack kind of stands out, which is, hey, I have this application that I want to build. I've heard about vibe coding a little bit. I've heard of this, a self-writing internet and I can build web apps with AI, but I don't know where to start. And I think we will figure out some things, but a lot on the side of Claude Code or agents, you can prompt your security, which again, the people might a few months ago would say, prompting your security is a terrible idea. But what we're seeing here is that the prompting that they're doing is able to find these exploits and exploits that the experts in the field are not able to see themselves. So we've surpassed that level. Now it's not like,
Yep.
I guess, like PhD vibes, far surpassed that, like a industry leader vibes, I guess, is what we're doing now and dealing with. And you could build your app, you prompt, you go through every single thing. And you're like, okay, I've done this. I've built this, that my front end looks nice, everything. How do I host it? What is hosting? Okay, I'm ready to host my website. And now I host it. And we're getting to a point where the moment that's posted out there is that there's vulnerabilities that people are going to try to autonomously attack. And, if your stack is vulnerable, then there are vulnerabilities in there. And one way to prevent it is going first with caffeine, or deploying and having things live inside of the protocol as kind of gaining the benefits of the security of ICP, where you don't have to worry about like the operating system. So here we have some crazy, I think reading this is important. Maybe reading this with AI, if you don't really are not too deep on cybersecurity, is a great one, because you have things of having something escape both render and the sandboxes. And you have the classic example was that they found out that the agent got out because they were eating a sandwich at a park. Yeah, which is just very alarming, I would say. But again, there's two ways of fixing it. Either you fix the firewalls and you trust that what you fix is going to be something that prevents it. You can go to different maybe functional programming and you do Haskell or you do different languages to make sure that your things are very secure. I don't think you can do through like the hopes of, hey, my application doesn't have that many users, maybe nobody will look at it. I think another great way is doing the stack itself and the infrastructure that it builds off of. So having the base of ICP being something that, hold on.
Yes. So the TLDR of this article is the threat has never been more real. You almost have to assume any and every builder deploying an app, you have to assume that you're vulnerable by default from the start. And so to circumvent that risk, why not build on a truly tamper-proof protocol like the internet computer? So that's why we're here.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, it's a bummer that I can't do this stuff. Maybe because the background is black, but if I do, let me try back here. Okay, yeah, we're good. Like you have your different vibe coders. So let's say maybe lovable caffeine. And on the front, right, you have, nice looking application. And I think caffeine will get faster and faster. Lovable as well will continue improving. We can assume that both of these just get better and better at building things that look nice and work, right? So functionality is either the same or maybe one's a little bit better than the other. We would hope that would be caffeine, but they'll continue improving.
That's
and right. I think in the few months that we've gone from, even V1 to V2 to V3, even the shift to V3, right, within a few months, is just on a pace of improving that is really good, and we'll continue going through that. The difference though is what happens a bit behind the scenes. And over here you have, your traditional stack that has like let's say it's your database, and you got server, and then, I mean, that's pretty much it, but we can just say users. And then, ICP on the caffeine stack is, I guess, just users from here, because you have a serverless environment. You don't need a database.
Canister.
It's actually, now to see it visually here, it's very much something that I can see why it's difficult for people who are maybe so into like the Web 2 environment that you have an application, an entire application that has no database and is serverless. They might say, it's not possible. But here, these are all vulnerabilities, right? Let's say you're happy with your product, lovable, performed very well. It is a good product, and you're happy with how it looks. Maybe it has some AI features. You're going great. You're vibing. The vibes are good. And it's hosted on AWS. And now AWS goes down. So
that's right. Regardless of how much security hardening you've done on your app.
Yeah.
You're still,
regardless, let's say you put in 2 years of hard work on your prompts and you got your thing, and then AWS goes down. No one is seeing this good product. Right?
Right.
What they are seeing is the caffeine one. But let's say, okay, AWS is good. I erased it, but AWS is good. And your database has maybe some vulnerabilities, or people have access to, let's say, maybe Supabase is one that people tend to use, or certain things, and maybe that gets exploited. Mm-hmm. Again, you get into the database and you can get user data. Put it all on the wrong side, but that's okay. Get access to,
and the number of those single points of failure, it's really a lot greater than what we're showing on the diagram.
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
Right?
Like these, and then within there you have all these dependencies and things that you have to look out for. And if any single one of them are compromised, then your product is compromised.
That's right.
And again, that it'll get more and more robust. I think there's, again, back to the Mythos thing. It's nice that they went around it and all open source things were improved. But again, that's open source. So if you're a product or you have some proprietary information, you're not getting the benefit of those things, right? Of people that are using these models. So Anthropic going in and using their models that they have to attack open source software and then recommending patches. if you're not open source and you have that your secret sauce or whatever, the stuff that is earning you money currently, you're kind of lost. You're in this abyss of something that yeah, I guess you would have to be ready. And as models are getting launched, is maybe setting up a whole thing to protect yourself and maybe attack and find patches, or it would be starting from secure infrastructure from the start and kind of build those layers. There's that famous picture of the one that has the like all the things and it's that are like being supported, right? And it's being supported all by one thing. Hopefully people
Totally.
picture what I was drawing, but yeah, that's a bit of how our current tech infrastructure is. But again, going through all the years of R&D and going through everything that ICP is today, you have an entire internet protocol or internet computer protocol that acts as this sovereign cloud, and you have like the tamper-proof canisters. So your entire application, right? If we go back to here and we have, let's say ICP, all of
Tamper-proof
this
and unstoppable.
Yeah, all of this lives in here. So you have the security benefit of an entire protocol that you can host your entire application, your back end, your front end, whatever you want to do, you can host it inside of ICP, which isn't the case for anything else that's out there, which is why a lot of people might be like, oh, this is impossible, or oh, this can't be done. But I knew ICP was secure because I associated it with blockchain, but I didn't know, like I thought NFTs were something that you can't even host on a blockchain. Well, it's like things have changed in terms of where we've gone, right? We start with just very quickly of here. We have Bitcoin, which is transactions, right? Here we have smart contracts, which are, maybe it's a legal thing, or you can have DeFi.
The E is Ethereum.
Yeah, E is Ethereum. Yeah, sorry, I go pretty quickly. Let me go there. That's nice. And so, yeah, Bitcoin, I guess I can write it instead of going super quickly. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and internet computer.
Third generation blockchain.
Yeah. So here we have Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. But we go from transactions. So transactions are secure. One bank gets hacked in traditional finance. If you're with that bank, things aren't so great. Then Ethereum, we have smart contracts. So we have trusted parties that are trustless. You have a lawyer that looks at a document. If that lawyer is untrustworthy, that document maybe isn't the best one to have. And then, we go from the transactions of Bitcoin to contracts of Ethereum to now the entire internet stack on ICP. So here we have, full on applications. I don't know.
Head to toe, full stack, running on chain.
Yeah. So the I guess cryptographic security aspect is something that has persisted throughout, but what you can apply it to and what you can actually secure has just become much more capable, and it wasn't just out of the box. It wasn't just something that happened to be there, but yeah, again, something that is behind the scenes with Caffeine, but very much, is tied with as kind of the easiest way to build those applications that are hosted. Because before, you would have to go through maybe DFX, you would have to know about maybe a stable B tree map, you would have to know about cycle management, ICP costs. You kind of have this whole thing here that you have to go through, or you can just prompt like it's ChatGPT and you say, hey, I've always wanted a website that has this, or, oh, can you build me a website for tracking things? Can you build me a portfolio because I'm looking for jobs? Can you look online to find what this job has hired in the past? Can you make my profile look like something that they would want? I don't know. There's a lot of things that you can go in through there, and we'll keep improving. I think right now it's very good at when you know what you want, and you it's kind of like the wish box, right? You come in with that idea and you say, hey, Caffeine, can you just build this for me? And what you get out of the box is the security and everything that we talked about. You don't have to worry about any of it. Your thing gets hosted and it looks like it's online like any other application. But again, if the world's infrastructure were to go down that day, in terms of Cloudflare or ICP, or not ICP, but Cloudflare AWS, then ICP would stay up and would continue.
And to that point, I wanted to touch back on the Mythos article.
Sure. Yeah.
So we understand this. We understand that apps running on ICP are tamper-proof and unstoppable inherently as a result of the blockchain infrastructure that they were built upon and run on. So why, in this article, aren't they talking about migrating trad infrastructure to the internet computer?
I think
huge question. Just
no, you're good.
Personal opinion.
You're good. I think just off my head, I think a lot of it is narratives are tough to break, but nothing makes you change quicker than seeing something like seeing the negative outcome, right? Like if you get hacked, then you up your security. But if you've never been hacked before, you're not going to necessarily worry about security a lot. And now we're coming to that inflection point of people realizing that their infrastructure might not be the best, which, to be honest, it could not have been. I think we started with kind of the good intentions of an open protocol for the entire internet. We have the World Wide Web, but then we have big corporations. We have Google, Amazon that hold your data, hold your applications that you host with. You don't have that other option, right? Like before with banks, you have to go through banks. You can't go through a decentralized bank. What does that even mean? Mm-hmm. You don't have a context for it until it's actually done. And then it's not actually done or used until you need it, right? Your country is now at war with another one, and you have a bank account that's normal, and now that bank is ruined. If you had Bitcoin, then you can go out and your stuff is safe. With ICP, if you have an application that's built from Caffeine, you prompted it, it's built, and now it's hosted, and then servers go down somewhere, your application is safe. And that's through replication. And you can also, eventually you'll be able to, and this will go a bit into cloud engines, but without going too much into that, let's say you need to be GDPR compliant, you have compliance issues, or you want to be only in one country, or I don't know, you want to be robust and very secure in terms of you always want your application to be served on the internet, and you want to just cover the globe in terms of nodes that you touch for ICP, then you can do that as well, is what we'll see. But
how do we get the world to know, I guess, is the question, right?
I think there's so many different avenues, right? You and DFINITY is doing very well in all of them. I think the shift between ICP kind of 1.0 versus 2.0 is where we see the biggest shift. Which is, hey, we have to actually build the protocol first, right? Like you can't go and necessarily get users, and you have people that maybe laugh you out of the room in the beginning when you say, hey, we're going to bring a secure infrastructure and all of this with decentralized internet and sovereign cloud. I think if you say, those things in the beginning, you have people that are just like, okay, good luck.
It's hyperbole.
Yeah, you don't have you don't have anything to relate it to, right? Like, hey, go decentralize banks. Now we can see in retrospect, like, oh, that maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that's pretty powerful and useful and more secure. But I think the shift from ICP being, hey, we're doing the research, we're doing all of this, improving it and continuing to do so, is now the shift into productization, the shift into this is useful, this can solve this problem, this goes hand in hand with AI that we're seeing. But it's also hard, right? Like if you don't have the productization, then you don't have Caffeine, you don't have cloud engines, you don't have ways that are making things incredibly easy for things to be built on ICP and using the network itself, but also helping others, right? If they don't know that this is an option, then you're going to be perpetually shackled to whatever centralized company hosts your things. If they want to upcharge you or they want to change things, then you suffer those, right? Like if you've ever been worried about those costs, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's hard because you have something that's in the crypto environment, all right, the Web3,
Yes.
that doesn't relate to it at all. I think if we go back to just very, very quickly, because I don't want to touch too much on crypto, because as soon as you say that, everybody just runs for the hills and
Scare
it's
'em
like, I
off.
don't want to do it.
Uh-huh.
Well, we could say cryptographic security, I think, is one that's a nicer way to put it. But again, the step between first, second, and third generation, if you have something that, let's say that the capabilities of a network is, we'll say 99%, and then we'll say 0.0001%. And obviously this is like 0.999, whatever, for scale and stuff. But you have here every single project that's in Web3, or what we call Web3, is up here, right? ICP
Yes.
is over here. So what do I mean by that? Over here we have ledger, and then we could say maybe ledger based transactions, maybe. I mean, ledger is more than enough, but essentially here we have a secure way to send payments back and forth.
Yes.
Which is very powerful. Like that use case is incredible, sure. Right? Where you can trust, you can send out loans, you can lend people money that you've never met before in your life, and it's by mathematical cryptographic security. It's safe to do so. So there's a tremendous use to making that faster, cheaper, more secure, better, and no jurisdiction. So it's all around the world. You can have lending providers. So you and I can provide liquidity if we're holding certain tokens, let's say Bitcoin and USDC or something. We can then provide that. Whereas normally it would be just banks or something, and they would get the complete cut. But here, you and I would get a cut for participating in this.
DeFi.
Yeah, DeFi, which is great. Yep. And a lot of the 99% is just fighting between those things, like, oh, we're faster, we're better, we can do this, and all of that. And then ICP is, we'll say full stack, and we'll say open, sovereign, cloud.
And multi-dimensional in the sense that you can run all types of applications and host all types of NFTs,
and
storage, etc. Whereas the 99% of blockchain is just one-dimensional, limited scope.
Yeah, which is actually a great point.
Transactions.
It's a great point to bring up, because you have the 99%. Maybe they have like A and B, and you try to interact with them. Like you have your profile over here, and you want your profile over here. That's incompatible for the most part. Or when you hop over, you have to go through like 3 people, which is the majority of the case. Is you have to trust then these 3 people to get your funds from A to B. And then, most often than not, 2 of those people get compromised, and then all of that is gone, which isn't good. And what a lot of people associate the 99% on. But you also have like very good protocols. You have very good teams. You have very good, like the 99% improving on each other and improving on the scale. You have privacy aspects. You have all these things in terms of ledger based. But the benefit here is that all of that 99% can actually come on the full stack open cloud by its nature. Because again, why would you have an open cloud that is tamper proof, and you would have this kind of interface that everybody can be a part of, but then you would make it so, we don't want these guys on here. Oh, right. It's open. It's sovereign.
Exclusive.
You can't be half sovereign, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But this is your Bitcoin. Maybe you like Solana, maybe Cardano, some stuff just to have it in there.
Inherent support for all blockchains.
Exactly. Yeah. Able to go across. You can have different finances and stuff, whatever. You can host a website that accepts maybe some Bitcoin, and you're happy. Now that the last point was a very quick one. Caffeine will get better and better and all these things, but you can host a site. You can host a site that you build with one prompt, and then we'll go through and make improvements. And eventually, how this works is then now on your site, let's say it's your portfolio that has you and what you do, and you want to accept Bitcoin, or you want to accept coins. I mean, this could be like USDC if you want to get dollars or something. There's different ways to do it, but essentially you own all of that, and nobody gets a cut. So if you're ever like a creator, or if there's creators out there that are giving platforms, 5%, 10%, whatever it is, on every single transaction, this unlocks the door to have like that completely removed. The big thing with the whole Web3 aspect was to cut out the middleman.
Peer-to-peer.
Yeah, and we cut it out for transactions. We cut it out for the borrowing, lending, and all those things. But as soon as we touch the internet, all of that is gone, right? Like we had the example before of having like your lovable site that has all of this stack, and maybe you have your Bitcoin app, maybe, that again ties to that same thing. All of that is going this way. Whereas now with ICP, the good thing is that you can actually have it be over here, eventually potentially lovable as well, where everyone can kind of benefit from the sovereign cloud.
Open cloud. That sounds so good.
Yeah. There's which is a lot better than you have the whole threshold relay that it's able to secure and chain key, which again are phenomenal videos. I think people should go through and see kind of Jan or people from the past of that have built this over years and years and years of cryptographic security. That it was the kind of necessary evolution that Dom saw like really early on and said, hey, what if we apply this to the whole stack? And a lot of people said, it wouldn't be possible, but
massive kudos to the pioneers.
Yeah.
Dom, Jan, the rest of the team.
Swissy, any plans to release a standalone LSP for Motoko? I believe there's a VS code, but nothing standalone that can use with Cloud Code. Yeah, that's a good one. LSPs being language server providers. I think providers or something, or maybe it's protocol, but when you have a language that's maybe hard for an AI to use, is you can create kind of these, basically it's a cheat sheet, I think is a good way to put it.
Translator.
Yeah. And, then it won't make those mistakes, and you save on token costs because it'll run through and check, rather than creating the whole code and then producing it. And it's like, oh, there's a mistake here. And then you try and you run your tests, and then you find your mistake. And you can do that over and over and over again. And now you've spent, 10 million tokens when all you needed to do was, maybe add something, or you need to take off stable in terms of one of the variables. So in terms of the direct question of if there's any plans to release one, I think there can be. I think right now we're experimenting with some of seeing what makes caffeine better, and also token savings and all of that for the product itself is good. I know there is one that's being worked on, and I would say why not in terms of the packaging for Cloud Code, making it the most robust and like capable way of producing on ICP, is we wouldn't really have an incentive to not release that to others, right? We want to release, and we will, of having or I guess we probably will, of having the skills, right? If there's community members that have a really nice design skill or ICP skill or something that they've figured out, then we want all caffeine users to be able to access that as well. We have app market here. Actually, what I should do is just have the what caffeine looks like as we talk, because a lot of people listening might already know, and they might be like, yeah, I've used caffeine and I'm deploying on the sovereign open cloud 24/7, but some people might not be.
Or you could be like me. I haven't had time to test out Caffeine V3 in the last 5 days, so it's good to show.
Yeah. So I prompted this right before we actually went on, and it said, create an aesthetic, minimalist landing page showcasing the best parts of the internet computer protocol. And pretty much if we actually had like an AI agent or Hermes that had a voice, and maybe we clone our voices, but you get pretty much the same thing of going through. But this, in terms of aesthetics, and again, like the design aspect for a single prompt, um, this is just crazy. Like in terms of the CSS, HTML, that the default path that it was to go through the front end engineer route. And you have flex boxes, grids. Anybody who's done that will know exactly what I'm talking about. But you get all of this in a prompt, and this was 9 starting on it, 22. So 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes, you can get a web app that looks really nice and is also hosted on, you still have to then go live up here, but then all of that is hosted for you. You don't have to set up other accounts. You don't have to manage, your Vercel, your database, your migrations, your whatever it is, all your vulnerabilities. All you have is ICP to worry about.
Plug and play.
This is what it looks like. You get specs as well. You get generated code.
And we can export projects now, is that correct?
Yeah, so you can export and continue working in whatever agentic environment you're used to.
Phenomenal.
You can, like, let's say you're at a point where you're happy with the boilerplate. I think a way that we're seeing as well is people might build something rather than starting from scratch. Is you go to Caffeine and you get that nice scaffold done, and then maybe you go and prompt a bit more. But again, the goal with Caffeine is that the whole end-to-end process can be done within Caffeine and very easily, where you can get access to, the best skills that you would want, the best designs, the best seamless deployment process, but also package that out, right? Like right now with Caffeine, it's seamless for Caffeine users, but if you're in Claude Code and that's all you know, and you really like that and you want to stay there, we shouldn't hinder people from deploying on ICP.
That's right.
So that,
just like how ICP doesn't discriminate with other blockchains, we don't discriminate in terms of the various paths for building and deploying an ICP. So
yeah, because
that's a thing worth noting.
Yeah,
we welcome all paths towards deploying canisters.
Yeah,
whatever works for you.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's the main thing, is how do we get, which touched on your excellent question, is, if this tech is so superior in these aspects and it is tamper proof, then why isn't there that activity? Why aren't more people using it? I think that shift is coming. I think it's starting. I think significantly more people have deployed on ICP than probably the history of ICP in the past few months because of Caffeine, because it's so easy.
Nice.
Like that's a benefit of the productization of having it be incredibly easy for anybody to do it. You don't have to go through DFX, which is now ICP CLI. You don't have to go through all of these complicated aspects and set up your Motoko and have your generation, or have to worry about, your enhanced orthogonal persistence. All of that is taken care of.
Amazing.
Yeah. So but yeah, to your point of why aren't more people doing it? I think it's the benefit of Caffeine is that it's that, not Trojan horse, but it's how can we deliver the experience that is so easy for anybody to do, that maybe they don't care that it's on ICP, right? Maybe they
most won't. That's right.
They'll want like their nice aesthetic website that they generate, and they don't want it to be like hacked, or they don't want it to be tampered with, or continuously prompting so that it is secure for the next AI model to come out and find exploits. I think there's a tremendous benefit of having the infrastructure that's around this. But like you said, most people won't worry about it. So how do you get those people on? You have to be good at product. Like you have to get Caffeine to the point where it's on par, and if not better than competitors, so that it's, and I think I was talking about this even before joining Caffeine, but you have this approach of everything that you can do on all these other vibe coders, you can do with Caffeine. The benefit is that there's more, There's something behind the scenes that you get automatically, which as of now, you can't through those other platforms, which is
That's right.
building on a sovereign cloud, a sovereign infrastructure. If AWS or whatever, other vibe coding platforms are using, if those go down, you're screwed because you're not technical, but being not technical now with AI shouldn't be a hindrance. And with building on the tamper-proof environment allows you to, I guess, build and keep all the vibes, because it's not great when AWS goes down and all your work that you've put in, no one can see it, no one can use it, or all of a sudden you're in a country. Like, again, this is a lot of people can kind of analyze these things and they might say like, oh, why is nobody using ICP and why is nobody, using caffeine? Because a lot of what they might be seeing is the Twitter feed. And they might see, oh, this is the feed, that this is the truth kind of aspect. And, for the most part,
That's right.
you get real-time information and real-time things. But in reality, you have people that have never heard of vibe coding. You have also people that have never heard of vibe coding that are producing things on caffeine and have done and start this process. And maybe there's different countries that are more inclined or they want to be out of necessity. Maybe there's political struggles or there's wars or things, but yeah, you get many different avenues of people using caffeine that have maybe never heard of ICP. And maybe that's the case. Maybe at the end of the day, the more enterprise countries and larger infrastructure, as well through cloud engines, where it's easier for people to either have nodes or be exposed or build on ICP, to the point where people are using it, but they don't know that they are. Like different maybe internet protocol things that people maybe have never heard of or interacted with, or same to the people that have maybe never opened a terminal, but they use applications all the time. It might be,
like 99% of Squarespace users or Wix users, they don't understand what's going on under the hood. So it'd be analogous to that.
Yeah. Which is a hard, like from a product perspective, it's a hard sell of something that you get out of the box is so incredible. But how do you show it? How do you show something being tamper proof? It's pretty hard. I think now what we're seeing is a lot of people are running for different things, a better sandbox, a better firewall, more cybersecurity, which is the natural approach. But there's also the one of, hey, let's build from the ground up and build from the tamper-proof stack is the default. It's not a firewall that we have to add. It's something that's a bit easier, I think, to understand from a Web 2 perspective, from AWS, countries, nodes, right? Like it's very easy to picture or envision like AWS as one company that controls things. And on ICP, you don't have that. You're, again, the sovereign cloud that's decentralized, and you can have your own subnets as well. Like we're seeing Switzerland is a country that has some, Pakistan and all these things, but kind of went off a little bit more.
Sure.
But
did you want to touch on the cloud engines at all?
Sure. I think, and again, more will be revealed, but it's these avenues of productization for ICP. Maybe we just go here briefly, but we have maybe caffeine, and then we have Cloud Code, or maybe I'll just say Cursor. Maybe people like Cursor. And then we have cloud engines. And this is kind of like the end user that accesses caffeine and they prompt. And then that leads them to ICP. And then Cursor, we have another end user, but they're using their own software. Maybe they get skills to allow them to deploy. And that brings them to ICP. And now we have people over here, the cloud engines, people who are used to the AWS or the GCP or all the things that we listed before, right? Like the more centralized companies.
Big tech cloud.
Yeah. And I think, and we'll see more with productization and what it looks like and where this is going. But essentially you have this dichotomy that exists today, right? Like if you're on AWS, it's very hard to go through here and switch, even like AWS and GCP to jump through those.
Sure.
Even just AWS in general. Like if you've ever had to deal with like the whole IAM security stuff, not very fun at first. There's whole courses. There's people that their whole profession is being an expert at that, which is a lot, but it is important, and you do gain a lot of security aspects from it. But let's say if AWS wanted to tap into something or could tap into having the, let's say maybe it's only Switzerland or different countries that have this, that are part of ICP, is a way that this whole side through cloud engines can now link back to ICP, which is before it was kind of, ICP versus the world. And now it's more ICP is open. And regardless of where you're coming from, if you're coming from the end user that's just prompting, if you're coming from somebody who's using AI and doesn't know about ICP, they can build on there. And then you have people that are used to more traditional stack, is what I would say here, which is that missing piece. And essentially what the productization aspect of ICP is solving for each of these things, right? Like caffeine hasn't been around for very long, and for what it can do is incredible. But you have, your average user who's maybe used to ICP or just prompts, not too technical, but still able to go on ICP. And then you have people who are a bit more technical maybe, or they want to use AI or Cursor, and they're building things and they're aware of security, but they might not know exactly how to improve it or what to build. Then they can do that on ICP. Or they want to get out of like the centralized control. Maybe they're working with AI agents and they really want memory to be something that's safe and secure instead of Amazon knowing their entire lives. You can have ICP as that memory layer, which again, with vet keys, you can have it so the application itself that you're building and all of that, but also the nodes, both of them don't know the secrets and the information. So you can have something that's truly private and verifiably so.
I would love to selfishly explore that a little bit later on, just because I am one that's handing off tons of information to big AI.
Yeah.
And I would love to migrate all of that to ICP as soon as possible, but I'm not sure how or where to start.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
No, it's good to kind of touch on that again, because it is something that we kind of not take for granted, but it applies to all of us, and we just have to accept it. Because, if you do want to go on the traditional tech infrastructure, you're going here, right? You're going on AWS, GCP, you're going on things that are hosted by centralized companies because they've built out all that infrastructure. And it used to be hard to get to here, the decentralized aspect side. But essentially, so to cover again, you have caffeine users who are maybe non-technical. They want the simple, fast pass. I want the expert skills. I want to go to the app market. I want to see what other people are building. I want to remix an app that has invoices and I can collect payments. Okay, great. Go through here. Rather than the second group over here that has you have to build it yourself kind of thing. The whole stack. You have to get the right skills that you want. You have to maintain all of these things. It's kind of the do-it-yourself thing, which for now is potentially more capable in terms of what it can do. But again, caffeine continues to improve. But regardless, both of them go to ICP in terms of the end point of what they touch on. But now if you're enterprise stack and you're on AWS or GCP and you want to have that option, right now it doesn't exist. So that's where Cloud Engines comes in. But again, I think more details on that will come soon. But again, it's just another, not attack vector, but
funnel.
What do you say, funnel?
Another funnel.
That's a good way to put it.
To ICP.
Yeah, all of it funnels back to ICP.
Great breakdown.
just in terms of V2 to V3, if we covered everything. So we have agentic build system, composer orchestrates specialist agents, new landing page experience, updated dashboard, discovery phase, context and version history.
Love the branding and the aesthetic, by the way. They're crushing the graphics and the branding.
New landing page, build apps with chat. You can voice as well, which I personally would recommend. I think a lot of stream of consciousness or prompting, you might leave out words that you would want, or if you were talking, you would get more of your thought out and you would get more of what your output you want.
And it's just like 5 times faster.
Yeah.
Too. So big time saver, obviously.
You've been using Whisperflow for
Whisperflow for the win all day long. Whisperflow, my iPhone, my MacBook, and highly recommend.
Yeah.
Whether it's Whisperflow or any other voice to text, this is the way.
Yeah.
Save that time.
Yeah. And it takes a little bit of getting used to of, typing things out. Mm-hmm. But
it will make you a slower typer. Fair warning.
Yeah.
Worth the trade-off.
Yeah. So this here, you can see just a wide range of it. Startup founders, product teams, marketing managers, freelancers. Again, whatever you want to prompt, if it's SaaS product, CRM, kind of your typical app building platform. But again, just the ridiculous benefits on the security side that you get sign in.
Was this page built in Caffeine?
I don't know if this one was. I can show you one that has kind of similar things as the blog. But here we have a blog that we're using as Caffeine, built with Caffeine.
Amazing.
Kind of, using your products. I think there might be some interesting points of can we use Caffeine to improve Caffeine? Similar to how Claude Code does it. But there's some recent updates as well of a domain that you might already own. Let's say you have a domain and you like the name and you want to get it tied to a Caffeine project, you can.
That's big.
Yeah, even on just V3, the stuff that we can go through. So the blog, again, highly recommend people go through because you can see all of the updates in more detail. There'll be probably more live streams. There'll be more videos as we go through. A big thing was the updates, but periodic updates. So anybody who is using V2 would know this, but where you prompt and you're kind of in this abyss, you don't know what's working, you don't know what's not. And then it would go through that pipeline and then it would fail, but then you wouldn't know and then things would break. But now every step of the way, you can see what the agent is working on now and what the team has maybe passed on to in terms of the agents. And maybe you're going to the front end and you're analyzing it and adding, your changes, and you can follow along with it.
And you brought up the classic example of when you add some front end elements and then V2, it would sometimes deploy without fixing the back end to accommodate the front end changes. Yeah. So with the new update and the new multi-agent flow, does this guarantee that won't happen?
I mean, I would never say anything is guaranteed. I think the benefits that you get is you can recover when things go bad. Right. Your point of, the back end agent maybe missed something is now it has the ability to actually recover versus, hey, it missed something. Your whole thing is not going to work.
Understood.
So, and you can make that as fast as you want, but you would end up wasting a bunch of tokens, and it wouldn't be the best way to go about things. But now, yes, now with V3, you can still have mistakes in that process, right? Because these are random sample engines. So you have tokens that are being produced and maybe there's mistakes as AI makes, but you can have, your PM checker goes and looks and says, hey, what's this actually done? Versus relying on one single agent to trust the whole way through, where they might say like, okay, this is good enough. And one of the big things, I guess, that we can go through is in V2 with the pipeline is you have your prompt that you go through, and then that gets through the pipeline here, like we saw in the thing, right? Goes through all these steps. But this is the user prompt. And then it goes into this pipeline. And if you have something that is not able to do a lot, maybe it's a model that struggles, or it's a complex step that you have to make sure compiles or works well, right? Like the back end of your project, you might want to simplify what the user's saying. So originally what there was this kind of checkpoint where your user prompt would go in, and it would actually go through a simplified aspect, which is great because you get, more often than not, you get to this end result here, right? People were still able to build things, but they would build things that then, oh, wait a minute, this isn't what I asked for.
Watered down, maybe.
Yeah. So now in V3, we have the same user prompt that goes through the multi-agent workflow that has maybe the composer, and then it has these agents over here and these agents over here. And then I'm drawing around you, but let's say this is the end result here. And now the user prompt gets passed through, and the composer has it, and then can kind of, I guess, keep it safe, so to speak. And then these guys are going back and forth over here, and then we pass it on over there, and we go over here and go here. And then we have the final kind of QA check for how the build has gone. And then we get to the finished product. So there's a lot of kind of creativity, but also areas of efficiency that you can improve here to here in a straight pipeline. Like I said earlier, you can get it, very well, and getting to that end result faster and quicker. But as soon as you try to make something that's more complicated, if we don't simplify this and something breaks in the pipeline, we can't go back, right? What we had before is we might go back a few times to see if we can get a better output, but the pipeline at that point is broken, which makes it not able to recover. Like one of the big things of the blog is the smarter error recovery. And so that this is what I guess it looks like a bit more behind the scenes, is you have in V3 the thing that the user is prompting stays in context. Like this up here stays throughout.
Source prompt is preserved by the composer agent.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And then it's a bit more of a non-linear workflow across the multiple agents working in parallel.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. And then you can, I like that you touched the parallel thing at the end, which is you can optimize more and have, maybe split up the front end agent to do a lot more, or having more things in parallel. But again, as you scale, you notice like, oh, if you try to do this in parallel to the fullest extent, you lose context, which isn't good either in trying to build these agents. But yeah, I think again, where Caffeine is today for V3 is in a much, much better place. And people who have maybe tried it in the past will notice that they can get out of things, but also that it works in the things that they're trying to produce. I think latency is still something that needs to be solved and improved. But again, you can't, if your agentic builder is not listening to your user, then you one or two, you can't make it faster.
Yeah, it's worth the wait if it's going to build it right the first time.
Yeah.
We'll make that trade.
Yeah. And then now with the foundation that it has in V3, it opens the door to a lot of things. Opens the door to potential multi-user building.
Nice.
Has the
collab projects
at market launch. Yeah. A lot of exciting things of this still new kind of agentic frontier, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years now, but still seeing how it will look. And I think the closer you can get to your full stack pipeline, the better, which again, with ICP, you get all of it, right? Without the dependencies that other builders might have. So the second you want to deploy something, you're good to go. You don't have to set up other accounts. You don't have to worry about other costs. You have all of it included in one go, which is some of the bigger benefits of Caffeine. But the goal, again, is not to depend as much on ICP, of saying, oh, you get the open sovereign cloud out of the box. It's, hey, this is the quickest and easiest way to deploy any application you want. And
securely.
yeah, and then you get the security and everything out of it. Eventually, you get the payments out of it. So through some web page that's secure, you can accept payments. You don't have to go through software or a centralized platform that takes a cut from that. You can just have a blog or have a post, and it goes directly. You don't have to worry about 2, 3, 4, 10%.
Can you speak to the extent of support for payments currently in Caffeine?
Yeah, I think it's
I know a lot of that's still coming.
Yeah, I think again, it's something that is an app builder. So if you want to prompt and you have your prompt and your codes and your things that you want to try to build, I think there are people that have shown that it is possible currently. But I think a lot of testing needs to be done to make sure that it's safe for others as well. Because again, Caffeine is more of that in on, hey, this works out of the box. Whereas Claude Code, you might have things where, with skills and the CKBTC payments, like now you can build an application that accepts Bitcoin. So all of that works and it's all doable. But again, how can we package it for the user so that it works, every time and in a way that's reliable? Is kind of the role, I guess, that Caffeine has in these things is how do we get all these features that we can access packaged in a nice way that no matter what technical experience someone has, they can just prompt to existence, no matter what language they speak or education they might have. If they can imagine it, then they can have it.
Such a beautiful thing. One specific question I had, can you speak to editing individual elements in applications? Has that improved in V3 versus V2?
Yeah, so I think, and we can go here maybe, and we can say,
like maybe you want to make it red instead of blue.
Yeah, red instead of blue. So I know instant will work a bit quicker, but let's say
instant mode.
Yeah, so you can select here, and if those that know like div selectors, so that this goes through, and same way that in Claude Code, you might give it, more help in knowing what you want to change. But I think what we can do is instead we do here, let me say, can we make this all have rounded corners and be in dark mode? No idea if that'll work, but we'll see. We'll see live. Okay, so there you can see like the new example, but here you can see the new tasks that are going. So it's reading the project, preparing to apply dark mode and rounded corners. 0 out of 2 tasks are done, applying dark mode, rounded corners, making sure everything works. So this is a nice one. That's
very
added.
nice.
And then it goes through. So the app preview is loading. It's going through the code and building it. And I think one thing here is that it's still reading through the chunk of your code base. So it's like, okay, reading through, what am I dealing with? Fresh new context. What can I do? Because of that dumb zone we were talking about, it's going through and it's getting to an optimal place that it's like, okay, now I know what change I need to do. And then I see this div selector, and then I output your app that has, the correct thing inside, and then you're happy. But this step up here, the first step of reading through, is probably one of the first things that will improve post V3, which is, hey, now V3 listens to the user and builds things well, but how can we make it faster? Because now that we have things at a point where it does work, is we want things to work well and work quickly. And from there, we can say, hey, maybe we can have things either in cache or things that are updated, and it has your entire code base already, so you don't have to read through again. And then you have, maybe it's a code base search agent, which you might do with, like, you could do rip grep. You can do different things that go through, but you have ways of searching your code base fast, and then it finds it, and it's like, hey, all I need to do is change this. And then that code base is then taken into context rather than the whole code base. And then the composer sees that change and then goes to just the front end agent that needs to do it, and then goes to the QA agent, and then finishes your application, versus kind of going through and having to rebuild and go through that entire multi-agent kind of step through those agents that are able to say, hey, how is this? Let me read this, and then be able to build it.
I see. Yep.
So it still goes through, and to go from single agent to multi-agent and have everything be faster. I mean, yeah, obviously would be the best way to go, but first things first is to make sure that the things that are built we're happy with, users are happy with, and then speeding things up, because it's a lot easier to do the latter. It's a lot harder to have agents that routinely work together and build things that are of quality and things. So now we go through here, reading the project and preparing to apply dark mode, rounded corners, applying dark mode, rounded corners, verifying build correctly, all checks passed, deploying the updated design. So we'll see. But again, these things will get much quicker. I think it's nice to see that it's still working and still chugging along in terms of...
Yes, the active progress
Yeah,
is massive.
the active progress specs. You have different key features, different highlights. You can still go through code, so you can see what it's working on right now.
Nice.
I guess we're already on header. So it's going through here and changing some things because it found the exact place that it was supposed to change.
But it's already checked 2 out of 2 tasks done, even though it's still working. That's interesting.
Yeah. And it could be that it's deploying the updated design.
Sure.
So getting it, fully on chain, which could be added as well. I think that's something that it's going through pretty quickly, but where it's able to show the deployment process, where it updates as well. But let's see. So the whole thing earlier was built in 10 minutes. And then now the small change is probably going to be around the same time, unless there's some maintenance, which I didn't check if there was maintenance going on. So probably should have done that before I just prompted. But okay, preview is ready. Let's see.
Need our drum roll effect.
There we go.
There we go.
So now we got...
It's blue.
Internet computer, we got rounded. Here we have dark mode.
Or maybe drag your camera back to the left.
Oh yeah. Oh. Good call.
I'm the stream director. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get me out of the way too if you want.
Yeah, you can come hang out over here.
There we go.
All right. Yes, all of these
Dark mode.
I have some critiques of it, doing the whole page. Maybe that's why it took so long, was it just created everything and checked everything was curved. But I'm happy with the result of having it be dark mode. Most dark modes, you have things that just invert the colors, so it doesn't actually show up cleanly, or you might not be able to see this text.
Sure.
Which is nice. But it'd be nice if the thing that I selected was the only one that checked, but I'm also on instant mode. One thing you can change, but down here we have instant mode. If I can showcase. But if you go to guided, it can ask more questions, and it might have asked, and I just switched it to instant, but it might have said, if I was in guided, it might have asked and said, hey, do you want the whole thing to be changed, or do you want just the selected thing? I would have answered selected. Yeah, but it works. And this is, again, can we make this all have rounded corners and be in dark mode? And all of it is done. Like, you didn't have to worry about any classes or anything. Fonts are also nice. And this is 2 prompts. So you can see crazy things like what X2 is doing with I think there was the Rocket League example, or just crazy things. But yeah, there's
Might be fun to shout out some of the most impressive apps built thus far. Great demonstrations.
hopefully there's some good stuff in there, and we can kind of maybe answer more of community stuff, or just break this up into little bits that people are able to go. But yeah, our scope for this was covering caffeine, covering V3, covering ICP, kind of things that you and I have done in the podcast. But now it's interesting because we have you in the community who's actively building, using the ICP skills, using Claude and developing there. And then for me now with caffeine, with improving the product side and getting more users and all of that aspect. It's nice to come back after a few months go by. And
so exciting.
What you're seeing on the screen is built and deployed on the Internet Computer Protocol. So this doesn't touch AWS. This doesn't touch GCP. Doesn't touch anything. 2 prompts that we typed pretty slowly, typed about as quickly as the page was deployed, but all of it is there. You know, if Cloudflare goes down, AWS goes down, World Computer stays up.
That's right. Plug and play deployment straight to the blockchain.
Yeah.
Exciting times. Well, thank you so much for having me on with you, man. I learned a ton. Very stoked to use V3. And yeah, excellent explanations and breakdowns, man.
Yeah.
As usual.
Of course, again, I appreciate you taking the time on a weekend.
We'll obviously be receptive of all feedback. If people have requests and want us to explore specific topics more, we'll do it. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, appreciate everybody sticking with it. Anybody who might not know ICP, I would say go through and prompt some stuff, or tune in, reach out to anybody in the space. Those that do know ICP, start playing around with caffeine, see what you can build. Also check out Claude Code. It can be a little bit intimidating at first, but the getting started now, I think is something that's going to be very helpful. And yeah, just knowing about how the security works is not maybe the necessary place to be, but being aware of it, being aware that there is an alternative, and trying it out or sharing information all helps.
This is the way.
Thanks so much for checking out the podcast. If you enjoyed yourself, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Leave your comments and questions below. Like the video, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Peace.